Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Good evening to you. Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Another exciting discussion is about to be had. We're glad you're with us. We want to welcome you to our program this evening, to our show. And please share the live stream with a family member, a friend, anyone who is involved in the blended family, who's looking for some information, who needs some guidance and some information. That's why we are here to have this candid discussion this evening on this subject, the blended family. We would have been talking about raising youth in the Christian home for the last few weeks, and the discussion has brought us here to the blended family. So that's what we're going to be discussing this evening, the blended family. Welcome, Dr. Colling and Elder Sheridan.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, it's a joy to be back. We always look forward to share this special moment just with you. And, finally, we've reached the blended family. And this is one of the topics that has been most dominant now in Christian circles from what I gather. So looking forward to discuss it, and let's see what we get.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's something that's not necessarily discussed, but it is common, and it's becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time to be speaking about it. So looking forward to it.
For sure. And we really hope you share your opinion and thoughts with us this evening as we talk about the blended family. And what's the blended family about? What do they do? Is it a normal family? Can there be a normal family? Or is it craziness? We're going to discuss all of that this evening on Living Life God's Way. Please stay with us. All right. We're glad you're here with us this evening on Living Life God's Way. And as I said, we're looking forward to an exciting discussion. We have a few questions from last week, or a question that we would have liked to zero in on before we jump right into the question. I think, if I remember correctly, or if we remember correctly, is how do you function when two parents have two moral systems or two belief systems or something like that?
Yeah, differences.
Two differences.
One's Christian and one's not one.
No, differences in terms of approaches to a particular topic
Right.
or handling of the children.
Right.
Yeah.
How do we handle that, Elder Sheridan?
That's Again, I think one word that was very dominant coming down to the end of our discussion last week was maturity. It has a lot to do with the maturity of both parents and being able to put themselves aside and be able to focus on the needs of the children. When differences occurred, and that I have walked through, you try to initiate conversation. Sometimes one may not be open to it, but you try to initiate the whatever the topic is, and then you should be able to, both should be able to listen to one another's concerns or ideas or approaches, and then both agree on an approach. And depending on it, you may agree to revisit from time to time, right? But I also am quite privy to the fact that there are some disagreements that will end as disagreements, but you have to try your best to be respectful. And sometimes it might mean one parent taking on more responsibility. For instance, if you may be deciding that a child might need special education in a particular environment, and you might think a private education might be needed. Another one would be absolutely no, I'm not putting my money into this. And but as the parent, let's say it may be the mother, it may be the father, one might recognize the child has the ability, but just need an environment to rest and to grow. And so they take on the responsibility. So there's no agreement there, but just one takes on the responsibility. And at the end of the day, as we said, you have to look out for the child and where they're heading in life and make sure as parents that all activity is geared towards helping the child get into the teen years comfortably.
Well said.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think you touched on it about the maturity, and about, for me, it's about also about communication. It's the discussions that you should be having, you know, before you have children, and obviously during, because you know, children grow up and experiences and things change. So I think it's about not only about maturity, but about having good communication and identifying strengths and weaknesses, you know, in terms of who maybe the mother or the father may be stronger at one particular area, and letting that person lead on that area, and so on. So for me, it's about maturity and communication for sure. Those are the two key for me.
Yeah, and I support that as well. We parents, because of how we were raised, obviously have different, maybe in some cases, value systems than the other, even though it may not be, that something is wrong. Like, for example, in my family, when I was growing up, we never said good morning to each other. Yeah, we were quite okay with getting out of our beds and having conversation as if we all slept together.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so we, even though I know families who are in the same house will get up and say, well, good morning, stuff like that. But we never did that. And we were quite fine with it. There was no animosity. They wasn't speaking to anybody or anything. It is,
so can I just be clear?
Yeah.
This is strange.
You know, absolutely. It's like
very strange for me, and it may be strange for others. So,
yes.
So when you get up in the morning, obviously you set eyes on whoever in the family. So you wouldn't say good morning. You would just do what? Lunge into conversation, or just
you're just lunging.
So what would you do? Like,
We're just
woke up. I've just woken up.
Right.
You had a good rest?
No. Sometimes we didn't even talk. It was just cool. Just not say anything, and when there was something to be said, we would say it, and it was quite fine with us.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it was totally fine.
I think once everybody's a consensus, everybody's cool with it. I think it's fine, but I'd be like, you didn't say it.
The morning is still good.
Well, but if it worked for you, then
yeah, we did. So I would say that to say that so now you come together and the other person thinks that but you should be saying good morning.
Yeah.
How come you're not saying good morning?
Right.
Or you're not teaching the children to say good morning?
Yeah,
you should be teaching. So you say, so there you have your differences because of your upbringing. But like I said, we didn't do it, and it was quite fine. Whereas now, like you guys, if it wasn't done, you'd be like, are you on manually?
Yes.
I'm sure. You know,
I think for me, I would think something is wrong. So the first thing I'd be like, is everything all right?
Right.
And you'd be like, what do you mean? I'd be like, you have to say good morning.
Right.
And then I guess going back to maturity and communication, you could then say, well, I wasn't raised to say morning, and it's something I'm going to have to adjust to, and you can have that conversation.
Right.
But how does that transport to children?
Right.
Because they've got to say good morning when they go into school and stuff like that. So how did that work?
But for us, when we went out, we said good morning to others. Yeah, we transitioned from not saying good morning to the household to when we go out in public. Good morning, how are you?
We knew the difference.
Yeah, we knew the difference because people always say to mom, your children are very manly.
Are these the same children?
Yeah, they say that to them.
You know, I always have the mindset, sorry to cut, but I always have the mindset that really that's where you want your children to perform.
Right.
Outside of the home. You want them to be themselves and make the mistakes or whatever in the home. And outside, you want them to be the best they can be. You know? So, you know, that's fine.
But that's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But is that, you know, as you say, you practice it outside. You know, the old saying, charity begins at home. So you see the difference in approach here now.
Right.
So
exactly. So then when you come together with somebody else, no, you gotta. So do I teach these children to say good morning together when we're in the house? Manly, because obviously you have two different dynamics here going on.
Definitely.
Going on.
That is
So we are saying. So how do you approach that?
That's what I'm saying.
Because asking me.
No, how would we negotiate on
Right.
that? And that's a
what
perfect
did your
example.
parents say to you? Because obviously they taught you to say good morning when you went out,
Yeah.
and it worked fine. So what did they say to you? Did they say to you, make sure when you get outside, you know, you say good morning?
Actually, I can't remember they ever saying anything to us.
Or you just role model?
It's
There's an
it was
understanding.
an expectation that when you go, and because I guess for us it was we lived together, so there was no need for formality because we
together.
We lived together. But if you're outside now, because we went to church, we went to school. And as soon as we go outside and somebody was walking the street, you would say good morning.
But maybe it's the role modeling we talked about all through the past 4 weeks
Yeah.
about, you know, children tend to learn more from what they see. So even though at home you weren't seeing your parents say good morning to one another, or wasn't expected.
Right.
When you went out, you saw your parents saying good morning or good afternoon or greeting people, you know, in the appropriate manner. So maybe that was, you know, you just saw it and it just clicked, it just worked.
So I guess that's something you'll have to monitor. See, now there's an understanding. There's manners outside. We do understand on the inside. So that means when you go out with the children, you have to observe and see how they interact with people then. And then that might just initiate a little conversation.
But what I would say is if let's say the other person is not accustomed and the other person is accustomed, I would say let's try to do it. But if I don't do it, don't be
hold
upset.
it. Right. That's great.
So that you know both of us feel a sense of normalcy when we see each other in the morning.
Yes.
And then to the kids saying, "Oh, kids, this whole." Because we don't have conversations like this, but we can say, you know, kids, dad didn't grow up, or you know, allow the dad to say, you know, I didn't grow up the same morning in the house, but Monday, so we don't want to try to have some sort of balance in the family. So you know, because simple things like that can cause issues with each other. Because you know you're thinking, well, this is how I grew up, so we should say good morning, which putting pressure on the other can cause some disgruntled behavior with the other persons. So that we were just addressing a question that we had last week. We hope that has shed some light. What we are saying is have a discussion with the children, let them know the two dynamics, and then the other should try to accommodate the other by saying good morning. And the other person should try to accommodate the other by, if they don't say good morning, you know, don't be upset and angry and say they are unmanly and you're sick of them and they're unmanly self, you know. So you'll sort of give way to each other. I think that's the best way to approach it.
Yeah, I agree.
So leading into then the blended family, what happens if it's not your children?
Right.
So they're accustomed, and you've now blended.
Right. And let's say you have other children.
Right. So one
Oh.
set of children or child is accustomed to saying good morning and whatever, and the other family that have now come together, like yourself, are not accustomed to doing that.
Right.
How do we make this work?
So,
because now they're not necessarily your children that you can have that discussion and you know, and what have you.
Right. I would say this is how I would approach it. And then you guys can share your thoughts. I think when a family is blended, transparency and conversations are necessary up front.
Yeah.
Even before you get to a place of, let's say, where you actually move into the house together. I think that conversation is absolutely necessary, and transparency, so that each person's or each family, each side of the family, the blendedness, can understand the other, because you have two different sets of persons coming from two different sets of home, different sets of value system, different sets of behaviors, different sets of expectations, and so on. I believe conversation is going to be absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you're going to end up in some chaos. And like you said, let's say you have the female comes with 3 children and the dad comes with 3, and you're bringing 6 young people or 6 persons together now to show something different. And let's say they're not babies, so mid-teens. So which means that what value systems and everything have already been been set in them and so on. So I would say have conversation, have family meetings. I know that. And that's, remember we were saying last week when we talked about and the enterprise.
Yes.
When we talked about business with Solomon. We have the discussion. Many families don't have family meetings. And it is awkward then when something happens and you have to have a discussion. I think it is ideal for blended families in particular to have family meetings, whether it's once a month, whether it's once a week, whatever works for everybody. I think that is necessary to have the meetings, or you may not call them meetings, but you can say we'll decide that every last Friday at 7 o'clock we are having chocolate tea, where everybody sits at the table and have conversation. It can be discussed with mom and dad first, and then they say, okay, let's take it to the children, because the children needs to be a part of the decisions. I've found over the years that when there are blended families, that children have this tugging going on, and to eliminate that, I believe that it is necessary to have sit-down meetings, just how we are here sitting at the table. Don't allow anybody to stand, because the same when you stand, you have and you have the ability to create argument. But when you're sitting, you will lend more to discussion. So everybody sits together. Mom and dad can take the lead, and then you can start to discuss stuff. I think it is absolutely necessary, though, for the parents to have the discussion prior, not making these decisions, but having the discussion prior to, so that they can give direction on where the family
together direction,
where it will go, and so on. And that the children can, okay, this is the direction that they're going. I believe it teaches organization. It shows your opinion is important, because remember, like we said, we talk about blended families. You are in a place where somebody's going to feel left out. You don't value my opinion. How come you're doing what so and so? Let's say you're not doing what I like. So I think that discussion is necessary to eliminate those ill feelings. Can go ahead.
It's tough.
Yeah,
it is. It's very. It can be very challenging. From personal experience, it can be. Blending your family can be tough, but it can work. And one of the things that you mentioned, Pastor Brian, is about that communication, sitting down and having meetings, because you will have discussions with maybe your children, and then your spouse might have discussions with their children and what have you. But you need to come together and not have those separate bilateral side discussions. You need to have those round table meetings. So we have, family court. Sometimes it's called, depending on what the discussion is. You've got to have some kind of discussion where everybody, as you said, feels valued, feels heard, and like for every human being, everybody wants to be heard. And that's why we see a lot of children displaying certain behaviors because they're not being listened to, they're not being heard.
They feel stifled.
And they feel stifled.
Don't matter.
Exactly. And then, the world is telling you that you can do what you want and be what you want and have all these decisions, but then there's a responsibility that comes with that, and they're not necessarily taught the responsibility that comes with having that freedom. But so, do it in a safe place, in your home, at your table. I think a few weeks back we talked about, at least once a week, families should sit down and have a family meal together.
Right.
It could be at that point, but that's for us on a Sunday. Everybody has to be at the table to eat.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after dinner, you know, when your belly's full and you had a really good Sunday lunch, that's when we then just have discussion. So it's not kind of like scheduled, like every Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock, we've all got to sit down and have a meeting.
Right.
Have Sunday lunch, you sit down, you're just chilling, chatting, and then things, you know, come out of that.
Right.
But it's crucial and critical. I mean, it's not perfect, but it helps with the blending, because at the end of the day, no matter what, someone's somebody's child and not the other person's child, and vice versa. You can't take that away.
Right.
But what you can do is try to make it not so obvious and not so apparent, because that's normally the challenge.
Right.
A child or some of the children might feel kind of left out because one parent might be more, you know, comforting or attentive to their children and not to the other, and so on and so forth. So it's just about, it's a challenge, it can be a struggle, but it is about communication. And it's about the parents, as you said, having those discussions first.
Right.
And then relaying whatever it is to the children, but allowing them to feel involved in any discussions or decisions that need to be made. But it's paramount that the two parents are on the same side,
Right.
on the same
That's
page.
so true.
Especially
that's so
if,
true.
again, like you said, you have different upbringings, you might have different value base to some extent in terms of how children should be raised. So those are discussions, again, should be had prior, but there's nothing like hands-on experience. You can have all the theory and discussions prior, but it's when you get together in the house that you find out whether those theories actually work, whether you need to change the theory, you need to adapt. So you can have, you know, general discussion, but nothing like hands-on experience, I think, when it comes to blended family. And I said children change because they change. There might be 7 when you meet, and then when you finally marry and whatever, they're now 8 or 9. They're not going to stay 8 or 9 forever. They're going to turn 15, 16. You don't know what your child's going to turn into, even your own child. You don't know how your own child's going to turn out, right?
So true.
So, you know, all of that. So it's constant changing and adaptation and flexibility that you have to be comfortable with to a certain extent. And then also what can add to the mixture is the external parent that they're not living with. Right? So that's another whole new dynamic, right? So if their parents are involved or not involved, that, you know, depending on the type of parent they are and how they behave and how they're feeling and their emotional level and intelligence and whatever, that is also but that's a whole nother show, I think. But that also, you have to be mindful of that, because at the end of the day, that other parent is their parent, and they will always feel, you know, allegiance to some extent to that other parent. So, you know, as a step parent, you have to be mindful of that interaction. So it's difficult, but you have to keep talking. You and your spouse have to keep talking.
I see you asked Sabrina saying that you wish you were, you know, you can speak like us.
Yes.
Maybe someday we can have you on the show. But maybe you can share some of your experiences. You said that you have a blended family. Maybe you can share some of the experiences that you have had, so we can possibly have a conversation about them, or you know, just for our viewers to see. Other.
You know, I have to actually sit down and take notes from you all, from, you know, just listening. But it's just as, you know, Doc was talking there, I just see 2 words in terms of with the blended family. It starts off with both parties having the right motive. What everything has to be driven by love, you know, and it's like the love from the 2 persons overflowing into the family. So once it's stem and based on love, then, you know, when it comes to flexibility, things will fall. I can't, you know, say too much, but I'm taking notes. But I do remember in my own life when I was growing up, 2 things. One, my parents, when I was growing up into teenage, when I was around a teenager, I thought I was the first girl. I was the first child. But then my parents introduced me to my brother, who was older. He's from my father's family. And I was, at first it was like, you know, this uneasiness, you didn't know. But what helped, one, the way how mommy and daddy introduced him to the family when he came to he came to Trinidad, he introduced them.
Mhm.
And then after that, we became like pen pals.
Right.
Okay.
So we keep writing each other. And then something else happened though. And the way how I saw they interacting with him and how he just was, I guess, that friendly type of person. So that made it easier. He was the one that helped me when I was getting ready to come here to studies. He made sure where I can go and have the information because he was living in Barbados at that time.
Mhm.
And also I do remember, because I don't know, mom and dad, they have a love for people. So then when we were coming here, they had adopted another one. And it's like, well, that was an interesting blend. It didn't last for too long. But again, no, it has to do with the individual because she was older than 18. And her attitude and the way she approached things affected the whole environment. And so, as I was thinking about it today, I just remember, because I wasn't even considering myself to be a blender, but it's only after I remember these two instances. So it goes back to how the parents handles it, and it goes back to how the children themselves handles it, especially if they're over a certain age group.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very true. It is the reality of it in itself. And we know marriage is work and commitment and hard work and so on. And we must take in consideration if blended family is involved, it means some additional work because now you have to be intentional. One of the things that are flowing through my mind is the other parent will always have to make sure what they say to the other children is a certain way, because you offending your biological child is different from you offending your step children. The offense is different, or the offense is taken different. So it is important to make sure that you putting the time to let those young people, or the others know that you love them. So when you speak, they know you're not the Joe Sergeant speaking to them, or because sometimes you can come over as you might be a disciplinarian kind of person, and to your stepchildren, like, who are you to tell me don't go outside after 6 o'clock? And when my mother allows me to go outside after 6 o'clock, and when they come by you and daddy, you're telling me don't go outside after 6 o'clock. So I think we need to manage the correct thing for the time being, especially in the early stages. I would say allow that parent to do the correct thing. Like if you have an issue, speak to the other parent and let them know, I have a concern with so can you address it at first? Because at that time we're building relationship. Right. So after a while, you would be okay with doing the correct thing. Because if you come over as the person always correcting, that's going to present a challenge in a blended family as well, because it will not be received right away because they don't know you. So, right. They know how to get to know your love language, and when you say I love you, what do you mean? And when you cook for them, does that mean you love me? And stuff like that. I remember fences. The father was working all the time and doing what he was supposed to, and he was like, well, you never told me really. I do have to tell you that when they do this. So your expression of love may be totally different to what they're accustomed to. So they now have to get to know you. So I would say go out, spend time together. I think that the other parent should be intentional about quality time. I think that's important. So let's go for ice cream. Or you don't have to go to the other parent, whether dad or mommy. You don't come now. I'm just going to take out the children, other children in terms of let's go for ice cream. Let's go for drive. This, you're taking time out to learn them, and they learn you because they don't know you. And if they don't understand you and you don't understand them, you can easily have issues. Because I've seen so many issues with blended families where the children feel that the other parent prefers the spouse over them. And that can also cause friction because it always seems that you're always agreeing with her and they're not seeing you as, So I think that getting to know you, the other person that is, and spend time with them is absolutely necessary. Let's take a quick break. We want to look at what S. Brina is sharing. We want to look at what she shares with us, her experience. So let's take a quick break and let's see what our sponsors are saying to us. We'll be right back on Living Life God's Way.
Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
All right, so welcome back to Living Life God's Way. We're having a good discussion today on the blended family as it relates to raising teens in a Christian home. And obviously, the blended family is absolutely a necessary discussion when it comes to raising children in a Christian home. So we have a question here from S. Brina, and she's asking, what would you say are healthy boundaries when it comes to parents of the children while you're the step parent, especially when there's no agreement about things, because one parent wants to control the other. Right, wants to control the other. This is a very good question, as Brenda. Thank you for asking it. And ladies, who wants to go at it first?
I think that sounds darkish.
I think we kind of alluded to it in terms of the external parent, can have a huge impact on what happens in the blended family. But I think when it comes to, like I said, the boundaries, I think so say if it's the mother and the children are living with a stepmother and a father,
right? And
the stepmother, the biological mother is the one who's trying to kind of infiltrate or control the father.
Right.
It would be, I would say, the father is the one who needs to deal with the biological mother. Because he has to set that boundary that boundary. He has to, put the mechanisms in place. The children are living with me and my wife, and this is what we're doing. And it's really tough.
Yeah.
But I think that's what has to happen, because they're obviously living with the father. In my example, they're living with the father for a reason, whatever that reason may be. And so the mother has to, they have to communicate, obviously, because she's still the mother. She still obviously has parental responsibility for the children. Still has a right to know what's going on with her children and so on. But if she's toxic, if she's controlling, if she's, the father is the one who would have to put those boundaries in, not the children, and not the step parent.
Right.
I remember, especially when my children's father and I, when we had to go our separate ways, one of the first prayers I prayed is, God, help him at least to have a good woman in his life.
Uh,
I pray that because I knew
you awesome lady, you.
I try. Because I knew when they leave me and they are with him, that environment, I have no say. I have to respect what he did and what they did together.
Right.
And I'm just praying that their choices reflect what were mine. So I prayed that for a very long time when I realized what was going to happen. So by extension, I'm saying to mothers then, you have to respect the father. You have to respect the union. You have to respect that the children is with the father. Don't poke fire, because when you do that, it's going to affect the children in a negative way. And then by extension, I support the fathers in that they're trying to do what's right. But then again, they have to make sure and establish that nothing crosses over so that the children respect the mother now. The
Right.
person who, sometimes they come into your space, they have to respect her. So the men now will have to set boundaries and you have to respect her. When she speaks to you, you have to listen to her. If there's anything you don't understand, you come to us. Whatever happening in our home here is our business. He has to establish. If he does not do it, it will backfire on him as well. So this thing about parenting and blended family, from what I observe, it ain't easy, but it all has to do with being able to, how I said, based on love, respecting one another, and making sure the other person feels comfortable. If you don't have that, the benefits of blended family will not be experienced. And when I was checking out the benefits of the blended family in terms of both families bringing different experiences which they can share. If you have one child each, when you come together, they feel like they have company.
Right.
So you build dialogue, you build things for talk. When you go out, you have like a team. You can play football. So there are lots of benefits. But if you don't set the tone, you will not have it. You won't
I
experience
agree with
it.
totally. And I want to share your view because though it is mommy's turn to set the culture in the house, I believe that dad will have to be leader. And leader is you're the one who would you get involved and say, okay, this is what I want to happen in my family, and this is what we will do here. Outside influences needs to be secondary, where you are the person you let you decide what's going on, and then the other parent have a discussion. To address your thing, Brina, I would say to you that your stepson is going to need extra attention from you. Even though dad is giving him that attention, he's going to definitely need that love and attention from you, because it's good to have the balance in male and female. The male and female balance is very important. So even though he runs to dad and so on, maybe you can see if you can throw in an extra, see you type hallelujah, maybe you can throw in some extra hallelujahs and ask the Lord to help you to show him that love that he needs, because every child is different, whether adult or otherwise. Every child is different and responds different. And if one parent is showing the other child more support, the first thing that's happening to this other child is rejection. And rejection is the foundation of a lot of things. So, you would want to give him the extra attention that is needed. And if you have noticed that, and maybe God has allowed you to see this, that you can give to him what is needed, and you can help your husband that way by loving his child like he was your very own. I know people always say that it's not possible that your flesh, you can't love somebody who is not your flesh and blood like how you can. And I totally disagree. I believe that you can love someone who is not biologically yours just as much as you love your biological children. Love is bigger than emotion. Love is bigger than just saying the words and stuff. Love is getting involved in what is important to them. working with them, having conversations, and stuff like that. Love is all those things: kindness, patience, long suffering, and all of that. So I believe that you will be able to help your stepson, because you love his dad. And one of the things about us men, we may not say it, but stuff like this breaks our heart in a real way when our children are not happy, or they are finding themselves rejected. We men may not talk about it, but it is something that needs to be addressed. So I would encourage you to love your stepson, and I see you have said he gets it 100%. This is absolutely fantastic, because he will definitely need it. He really, really, really will. I'm reading the rest of your comments, and this is what we were talking about earlier. When you are the spiritual person in the house, the spiritual leader, it can be a little taxing for you as well, because some morals will be challenged. For example, if you are a believer and your spouse isn't, and the children says, "Oh, I want to go to a fair," and you're like, and the other spouse is, I'm cool. Because you're getting big and stuff. Yes, you can go. You're like, no, you can't go. And then you have the dynamic as, but you're not my parent. So if my parent says you can go, how dare you say that I can't go? So you have those different dynamics to deal with. And again, I say conversation is very important. And you said it earlier, Doc. You cannot have two parents working against each other, whether biological or step. They cannot be working against each other. There must be closed door conversations, what we will call adult conversations or elder conversations. There need to be those conversations so that when you come to the extension of the family, you present a united front. You cannot have a disgruntled front and expect to be successful. There must be a united front. You may even have difference of opinion, but when you come out with the family, you're sitting at that table with that coffee or that tea or that drink or whatever, you are coming out not to be pulling each other down and making the children see, oh, there's war. Because you know that when children see that little bit, they're going to push in, and it's going to be for sure. Because remember, you are not their biological parent. So you already start with a disadvantage. Correct. And God help you if there was a divorce and it was bitter. Or breakup and it was bitter. So those are the realities of blended families, and they're right within church with our community. They're right there. So it's necessary. And if you realize what we are pointing out to you, the importance of conversation, the importance of discussion, the importance of exchange of ideas and stuff like that, so that the family is on the same page. And again, we refer to when we said it can be considered an enterprise, because you are looking for success in this thing. You're looking for it to be
mutual
beneficial. Yes. And productivity, there must be productivity. And you said it earlier, when a blended family comes together, you have all these different expertise coming together, and if they can work together, you can have an awesome family, rich, not, only talking about money, but we're talking about rich in ideas and so on. And having that support is very important. I've seen some blended families that work so well together. And I've seen some that there's disaster, And if you look at the ones that is working, they are close. They have conversation. I remember this was an unfortunate situation where this child died, and her mother was remarried and her father was remarried. And when the child died, the stepfather and the father gave the eulogy. They gave the eulogy. And I just sat there and I said, wow, my God. Even though it was a sad occasion, and I saw these two guys And they were even on the pulpit saying, I think she loved me better, with each other. And they were cool, with that. So then the stepdad was saying, he totally enjoyed picking her up from some game she was playing. And he enjoyed picking her up. And the dad said, yeah, I remember when you would go for her and she would come and tell me what good time y'all had. And I was like, does this really happen? And they had a blended family going on, and they worked really well together. Clearly, the love of the child was more important than any other issue that they might have. Probably know at times they probably had disagreements and stuff like that, but they seem to have worked together. And what blew my mind is at the funeral they even sat together. They didn't sit with their wives. Okay. They sat together, and they behaved like brothers. The way how they were interacting with each other. So it says to me that it is possible.
Yeah, but like I said last week, if when we're talking about co-parenting, if you can put your differences aside and focus just on the child, then the results will be beneficial. Yeah. Right. But what happens is that we have our own emotional baggage going on, our own perceptions and prejudices and whatever, and that is what clouds our judgment and our decision making. Clearly, from your example, these two gentlemen had done exactly that. They put the child first, and that's why they were able to, communicate and have that kind of relationship.
Yep. So true. And it's necessary. If you're going to be effective, and if it's going to work for you, and I think what's important as well is, if you are the parent, if you are the step parent, because if you are the step parent, you have to understand that you must put in extra work. There's no doubt about it. You have to put in some extra work. Why do you have to do it? Because they don't, like I said earlier, they don't know you. You have to know let them see you. So it means you may have to WhatsApp them some more. It means you may have to spend a little quality time with them some more. And as you get to learn their love languages, then that will also be a benefit for you. Because the parent doesn't have to put in as much work as you, because that's their parent. But you have to do it so that the child can understand it. It's easier as it gets older, or it is easier if you find the child young. Because I found that when persons were in a relationship when the child was young, as the child got to know them more, they were more relatable to each other. Or when they got older, you're now adult, so you can respond in a different way. But I think that it is necessary to put in the extra work to know the child. I also realized that one of the things that happens is, if there is a deficiency with the other parent, the child looks to, and this will be in your case too, Sabrina, where the child will look to the other parent for what they weren't getting from the other parent. So when that deficiency is present, then you must make sure, you must be intentional about it to show or give that which is lacking from the other parent. You're not trying to replace them, but it is likely what the child needs. And if you don't do that, then the child will start seeing that parent, that gender as an issue. Whether if it's a male, they will start saying, oh, it's male issue. If it's a female, in the case of a mother, you will start seeing the female issue. So then you will have this rejection thing for the opposite sex. And this, like you always say, these things happen and they grow and they grow and they grow. And whereas when you get older, you have the mentality, oh, I don't like men, or I don't like women, or I can't stand men, or you have a low tolerance level for the opposite sex because of your experience with the other. And it extends through our lives. Unfortunately, as we are children, that which is done when we are children affects us when we are adults. So it affects our married life. It affects our work life. It affects most things about us until we come to the place where we realize, like, whoa, I'm broken in this area. Let me get some help. So this, because otherwise it will run through your life. You get married and you become somebody's nightmare because your parent, they love you you know, that or you felt, you didn't show me what I needed. My love language was a hug, so you never hugged me. So now you get married and you expect you're supposed to hug you all the time, and when you don't hug you, like, how come you didn't hug me today? You should have hugged me today. And every day I'm asking for a hug. You just can't come and hug me like that. I see it. That's the reality. Y'all never encountered something like that. Like, I saw encountered stuff like that. You know.
No, you're right.
So yes.
But I think I alluded to this last week or the week before, that as a parent, even before coming into marriage, you have to recognize what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. When you become aware of them, then you're able better to appreciate why God will allow someone in your life. So that when you enter into that blended family approach, let's just say I may be a little bit lenient in one way because of my nature. I might be a little bit lenient. The other person might be firm. Right? So instead of beating down the firmness, you work together, whereby his firmness might come across as harsh. We might discuss that, where your gentleness might come across as being too soft or too whatever. You have to understand now, when the child needs a firm hand, you're all working together. When you get up and say, listen, I said this is what to be done, we have to do it. And I basically, woman, you heard what Dad said, or you heard what was said, and I agree and I support. So in other words, because I know my strength. As I said, I was not good at math for nothing. It was a miracle I got through for CXC, and I thank God today again. You understand? But the children's father, on the other hand, he was excellent at math. So I did what I could in art. When it came to arithmetic or whatever, I point in that direction. Go over there. You're all going to bond, you know? So you have to know, again, as parents, we have to know what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. And because you're in love with the person, that person's strength become yours. It's not a competition trying to prove anything. You work together and exchange and get the benefit. The child will benefit the best of both worlds and be more balanced.
That's true, because
teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork definitely makes the dream work. And this is all part of co-parenting as well, because co-parenting is not only biological parents, but it is those who come together to lead a family. And again, I refer to the enterprise definition, because when you have a leader or a CEO or a manager, or you choose to call, but then there are others who have to help the CEO manage, because you can't manage it by yourself. And God has created let's say female, to be helpmeet. So there needs to be a discussion between mom and dad, because even though you're not the biological parent, you still represent mommy or mom in the house, and how you guys interact with each other. So mom and dad can't be fighting in front of the blended family. That's crazy. That is a definite no. That's out of order, boy. That's a definite no. Because if that happens, then you're going to find that they start taking sides, and you do not want sides happening in a blended family. That's a definite no, boy. The devil is a liar. You don't want that happening at all, because once that happens, you know whose side they're going to take, who they're likely to take, rather. But this is important. And some people shy away from it. Some people may even advise others, don't go with the man that have the children. Don't go with the woman that have the children. No, don't do it. Some people, I've heard people advise others against it. And I think that is wrong, because we have seen families bond and grown together that are blended and have fantastic relationships. And sometimes I've even seen experiences where the parent, who would be considered the step parent, gravitated more towards those children that were the spouse's children, and had great relationships with them. So when they needed something, they would call their stepchildren versus calling their biological children. I've so seen it, and not once or twice, but a few times.
But
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 let me hear this.
you
But
made a point where someone might advise a person, oh, don't go getting married to someone who has children. I think you still have to examine it from, what I've heard even today, in that it all depends on who the person is. Who the person is. Because if the person is not going to listen to you, or like a lady was saying, see my children, no man can discipline them, no man could talk to them, no man could. So with
that person should be married.
There you go.
Or have a relationship.
There you go. So from that angle,
because you
that
already
is
hear
a warning
selfishness coming out there.
Right.
So from that warning, that opens your eye to examine the man, or the man should examine the woman, what attitude she's coming with. Are they going to be listening to me? Are they going to be preparing the children?
They're not gonna. No.
I know that.
No.
That's why I said but. Because the same couple who were planning to get married, when they went before the pastor with that, he asked her, how are you going to handle it when he corrects her, your child? He said, no man can correct her. No. Whereas the guy was saying, no, I have to be there to do because I'm supporting her. So then after the pastor said, well, you have to consider this. Within 2 weeks, both of them called and said, it's off. So it all depends back on the parents.
That's ways to call it off.
It all depends on the persons involved, and as our word from last week, their maturity in handling and navigating this new pathway.
Because for sure you will have broken children out of that. Because if you're saying, oh, no man in discipline my children, or no woman discipline my children, then you should discipline them yourself and stay by yourself.
By yourself.
You should stay by yourself.
And you can't have children and then expect your spouse to be not to have children.
If
you've got children.
Well,
that's another thing.
That's what I say.
But I've heard that as well. A woman I know, she's got children, but she doesn't want a man who's got children. And I was like, well, how can that be? Because you have children.
Yeah, and you would want the
pressure. So so it's like, but he can't have children because I don't want to deal with all of that. I don't want to deal with other people's children, and etc. So there is that.
That is crazy.
And
wrong at all levels. Wicked.
I think her argument was that as the woman, whether step parent or biological, the woman tends to end up, as you said, she sets the tone for the house. So she would probably be the one doing a lot of the nurturing and work then within the household. Right. And so therefore it's like, well, it's all well and good. If a woman has children, she would be looking after her children. But I think the perception is that if a guy's got children, he's going to want the woman to look after the children. So therefore, that's why she doesn't want him to have children, because she's going to end up having to look after the children as well as her own. Whereas that doesn't normally happen. If a woman's got children, she doesn't expect the new man, to come in and look after the children.
Fair enough.
So I think that was where she was coming from.
I have a surprise here, just only today, I kid you not. When I was just doing some research, scripture, it talks about, of course, the man should manage their families well and raise their children to respect the family. First Timothy 3:4 in the ESV version said, he must manage his own household well, with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. In other words, as you were saying, that the woman is supposed to nurture and all of that. But news for you, the guy's supposed to set the tone so that the woman can nurture. So it's like a give and take.
But she still ends up having to be the nurturer, and that's what she was trying to get away from. Because she was saying that she looked after her children,
and to go on
and then now to go and take on more children.
When then,
do you understand? Whereas it doesn't necessarily flip the other side. So that was her justification for saying that she didn't want a man who had children because it's going to end up on her as the woman.
Well,
that's wrong. That's wrong on so many levels.
No.
But it happens though. It happens though.
But this is my take, right? we all go through things in life and experiences in life. Okay, put it this way. It might be a little twist, but this is how I'm thinking about it. Now, I've had 2 children already, and I know my age at this point in time. And I know that it's kind of risky having children. So if a guy comes now, he might say, well, I'm thinking about, having more children. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. That's a no-no. I've gone through that process twice. And at this age now, if it's anything, if you're dealing with children who are already born and walking around, we can talk. But to go and start at this age,
But
So in other words, I'm saying you as an individual have to know what you can handle and what you cannot, and let that expectation be put out. And from there, you navigate if you go forward together or not. It's about being fair.
Yeah, and something like that, you want to have a discussion
There you go.
early,
Yeah,
as well. That person, well, brother, well, sister.
Yeah.
The shit has been said.
Sometimes your brother and sister. Yeah.
Yeah, in life, we gotta so wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, because our time is gone. But I think one of the things that we are not mature about is communication.
Right.
And it's
Honest
statistics.
communication.
Yeah, statistics have proven that one of the major causes of family breakup is communication. And because somebody doesn't say when they're hurt or offended or let down or rejected, and it piles up and piles up and piles up and piles up until you have this huge amount of confusion. And then one day the pile just comes down. And the other person just I think that it's important to have family meetings, like I said, particularly in a blended family. Have family meetings as frequently as possible, and this would be my advice. Have conversation meetings. You don't have to call it a meeting. Like I said, you can call it a family tea time, or we have tea, whatever. But the children may not want tea. So let's say we blend some hot chocolate, or we blend some fruits, and this will be our smoothie. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. And so we will have a smoothie at 6 o'clock every last Friday, every last Sunday, every first Sunday, whatever works for you every month. This is our time to talk with each other, to make sure it has, and you can use questions like, you can be humble and transparent with each other. Have I done anybody anything that has hurt them? If I have, you can let me know so that we can talk about it and stuff like that. Good and straightforward conversation like that will save a lot of trouble going forward. You may say, I don't think it calls for all of that, but yes, it does.
It does.
It does call for all of that, because you have now inherited something that's already done, has already happened. Now, how do you work with it, and how does it work for you? I think that's absolutely necessary. So I totally advocate having the family time. We have the discussion, and mommy and daddy should lead. Dad, you have to be the person up front to say, let's do this. I think it's important. And I think the parent of the children who are now coming into fitting should say, kids, so I know you're not accustomed to having a family meeting, but we have decided, my husband, your stepdad, whoever you call the person to them, have that, we're going to have a discussion. And I totally am against the spouse saying, we're going to have a meeting with she, or we're going to have a meeting with he, or that one day want to have a meeting with us, or I already about the meeting, but he or she won't have a meeting. She says she won't have this meeting, or he say you want to have a meeting. So when it comes to the meeting, right? Because hopefully it won't take too long, and already you have casted negativity over what something that can definitely
and disrespect
help
to the other spouse.
And disrespect to the other spouse. One of the other things that you should never do is put down your spouse in front of your children or to your. I mean, you shouldn't do it regardless.
But
particularly in front of your children, that's no.
That's committing
No.
suicide,
No.
cutting your own
It
life.
is. It is.
definitely.
You know, and you're right when you say that, because sometimes we don't look as cutting the spouse as damage to ourselves.
Yeah.
We think that we are damaging them, but the reality is, if you're flesh and my flesh and bone and my bone, if I'm cutting you, I'm also cutting myself. If I hurt you, I'm also hurting myself. If I say negative words against you, I'm also hurting myself.
Yeah.
And those parents, the biological parent who is telling the children in the blended family, don't mind he, that your father, don't mind she, that your mother, you are just messing your children up, and it will totally work against you in the long run. I've seen it over and over and over again, you know, where this has happened. So be mature, be responsible. Grow up. Don't find yourself in a place where you are pulling the man's wife down, or the woman's husband down. Don't find yourself in that place. It's always best when you have nothing good to say nothing. You know, because as much as you are their parent, when those children go into that space, you are doing them more harm than good. And what could have been a good thing for them, because of your upset, because of your negativity, because of your disgruntled behavior, because of your toxic behavior, because of all of that, your immaturity, you can damage something that could be good.
But
so
you know,
God could have brought them together, a blended family together, to, you know, or when your other family will not have been able to take you through or the destiny that I wanted you to do. So now I brought you together, and you know, your mom might not have been the best person to do it, but nevertheless she was your mom. But now I'm giving you a mom who knows how to do this, or I'm giving you a dad who now knows how to do it. So allow this person to be the best that they can, because they can bring some balance in your life.
It's absolutely true, and it's always what you don't respect, you could never accept. If I don't respect you, then I cannot accept what you bring to the equation. You know, so you have to avoid that. Respect yourself, respect the person you've brought into your life, into the children's life, and you are preparing a foundation where both can benefit from the best of both worlds, the best of each, and you as the couple can work out the worst of each, you know, but at least coming in front of the children, they're going to get the best. So this ego thing and this humility thing is very important to deal with when it comes to parenting.
Maybe ladies, next week we can look at how to deal with the step parent, or rather how to deal with the biological parent.
Both. Either.
I'll be taking notes.
So we want to thank you this evening for joining us on this program. We've totally enjoyed sharing with you. We hope that you have been blessed. We hope that you have been encouraged. To our guests who have been sharing with us a lot. Ex-Breeder, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, Samus and Misha, for sharing with us as well. I don't think I've seen any other thoughts. Every other person has been paying attention and learning. That's quite okay as well. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And on behalf of all of us here at Living Life God's Way, we wish you a great Thursday evening. Stay tuned next week for another program. As we said, we're going to discuss it among ourselves, and then we'll come up with what we'll look at next week. But it likely will be something associated with the family. Clearly, God wants us to deal with this. So have a good evening. We love you. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.